Hey gang, welcome back to Invertipursuit's Laboratory. This week we're going to be taking a look at an incredible project. This is EggTimer's newest product, the EggTimer Quasar. This is a flight altimeter and tracker all in one. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go through our parts here. So when you initially open the bag, you will be greeted with a parts list. The Quasar has an extensive parts list. It is incredibly long. But we're going to sit down real quick and go through all of them just to make sure we have them. Some of you have watched parts of these videos before and will probably want to just skip on through. I understand it's not exactly the most titillating content. So we have initially our Wi-Fi module, which I'm going to set up off to the side, and our Hope RF module. Those two come all on their own, and they've got a number on a bag. That number is related to your Bluetooth password, so you'll want to keep that. We then have a second pink bag full of parts that we're going to go ahead and go through. The primary part you should notice in there is the PC, or is the circuit board, PCB, with the pre-mounted GPS antenna on it. We then also have a very good pile of parts. Alright. We have a 8-pin EPROM. Yeah, it's going to take a hot second to find some of these parts. So we're looking for the pack, a PCA 9536, which is actually this little guy here. So I'm going to set it up out of the way. And we're looking for a voltage regulator. It will typically, voltage regulators are this guy or these little guys. There should be one voltage regulator, so it's going to be that guy. So we'll get it out of the way. We have tons of resistors and capacitors, some 2-pin headers, a right angle 3-pin header, there's another 2-pin header, a 6-pin terminal block. We'll get up out of the way. We have a handful of jumpers that we don't need at the moment, and tons of very tiny parts. Alright, next we have these are VN5E10160S drivers. We have 3 of them. Easiest way to find those. We have a power FET marked FQU13. That would be this guy here. You can maybe see that is marked FQU13. It looks almost identical to the other one that we have, so it's kind of difficult to keep track of those as we go. This is our rectifier, is the other one marked FD20, so that keeps things confusing. Then we have I have no clue if it's this one or not. We have an amber LED. We're going to go ahead and go through things I know. We have a buzzer. Apparently that is a buzzer. We have capacitor, 0.1 microfarad. We have 10 microfarad capacitors right there. We have 331 resistors here. We have 102 resistors. We have 472 resistors. Some of these are upside down. Oh, there's 472 resistors. Here's my 103 resistors, my 104, my 223 resistors. I have a bunch of resistors with leads that are literally just for the leads. We'll be using these for soldering on. Usually the Bluetooth module uses those. We have a 1K, 3x1K resistor, SIP, and some very, very tiny chip that I do not know the name of. So we'll go ahead and set most of these to the side before we get started. I'm also going to work to kind of reorganize parts as we go. So let's bring this into focus here real quick. All right, so on this board, the first thing they want us to do is go ahead and actually mount it to a series of 440 screws. I just happen to have these around. The kit does not come with them, but they want it mounted such that basically the head of the screw is on the opposite side of the GPS board. So basically we'll have a standoff to work from as we go. So basically it'll end up sitting like that, keeping the GPS board off the ground. So I'm going to do this off screen real quick. That is the first step. Next, we're going to be mounting the CAT24C512 EPROM 8-pin SOIC. Marked accordingly. Some of these I'm actually struggling to read the labels through the tape and having to open them before I can actually read what they are. 24512, yes. All right. So our 24512 EPROM, so much fun, is this little guy. Make sure that's in focus. Yes. It will mount right here. There's actually the word EPROM printed on the circuit board, and so that's how we know where it goes. There is a notch or square on the circuit board here that aligns with the dot on the chip, which I just shut off the board here. So first things first, we're going to be going through and soldering one pad to be able to mark and set this basically. If your soldering iron's anything like mine, it's been a little while since it's been used, and so it'll need retinned and cleaned before you get started. So we're going to come in here and we're actually going to set the first pin right there. I'm going to come in like this. Soldered that one in place. So next thing we're going to do, I'm just going to verify with the set. Yep. After we set that one, we will be soldering the other 8 pins. If I could get things to stop sticking to my hands, that would be great. Alrighty. Got a little much solder on this pin, and I don't like it, so we're going to try and take some off very gently. All right. Next pin. Does not need much solder at all. Just enough to hold the pin on there. I still have quite a bit more than I'd like on this end pin, but I don't want to risk damaging it, so we're going to leave it right like that. Next, we mount a 0.1 microfarad capacitor. It is brown part in paper tape, so that is this guy here, brown in paper tape. We need exactly one, and it's going to be going between our two 8-pin SOICs. So I'm gonna touch this pad, get a good amount of solder on it, and I'm actually gonna rotate it gently. It's gonna help me with the capacitor, getting it in here. All right. And there is our capacitor mounted right away. Next, we are mounting our other 8-pin SOIC, which is this little guy. It is marked PCA. There's also marking on the board that says PCA, so it tells you exactly where it goes. Going to need a read for a moment to figure out what direction it goes, because it's not clearly labeled what direction it needs to mount. Okay, so this is really a weird one. So there is some NXP text on, this little chip at this edge of it. It just says NXP, and the pin in the right corner there matches up to this upper pin that we're calling pin 1. It is not super clear based on their written instructions when it says upside up, what upside up means. The image was much clearer, showing me that the NXP writing was our defined upside. That did not work as I wanted it to. Alright, I got one pin on. I'm actually going to go ahead and tack one more pin. I'm not a huge fan of the way that first one went on, but before I undo it, because I've got alignment correct, I want to go ahead and solder one more pin. And now that that's redone, we're going to go ahead and hit all 8 pins around, and I'm not That angle I was coming in at, no bad. Our number one goal is to not bridge between pins. These guys should heat up rather quickly. Alright, that was relatively on screen for what I believe was most of that. So, we've now got those three components mounted. Next, we're going to be mounting a 103 resistor just below that for me, but it's above it for you. So it'll be right here. Yeah, let's get the tweezers in here. The 103 will go on these two pads there. So I'm gonna hunt out a 103 resistor from our collection. Oh, I ended up getting two out. Not the end of the world. I always like to start with this pad as far as tinning goes. And I'm going to keep text going the same. So the text for the 103 is, for me, below the pad, for you guys, above the pad. And I'm going to make it read the exact same way across. So it reads 103. For me, left to right, you guys right to left because it's upside down at the moment. Alright, then we're actually going to mount two more 103 resistors, so accidentally getting an extra one out actually wasn't the end of the world. Those two 103 resistors are going to be going right here and here. Again, I'm going to mount them in the same way where the 103 reads left to right for me. That will be right to left for all of you. I'm going to go ahead and mount both resistors. Just let me clean my soldering iron tip off. Alrighty, and that marks those two being mounted. Sorry if the video gets a little wobbly, it can be quite difficult. Next we're going to be mounting the SI2302 FET on this side. So that actually goes right here between pad 1, 2, 3. The FET is one of the two contained in this very, very tiny package. They are teeny tiny 3-pin connectors. So I'm going to try and get only one out. And my goal is to heat up and solder just the rightmost pad, just enough. Just like that. Then we will come in here and solder our other 2 pads. Alright. Next we will be mounting another resistor. That resistor will be an additional 103. The 103 will go right next to what we just mounted. And per our usual, we'll solder that. Or tin that pad, not solder that pad. And keeping with the same mounting across the board. I've got that lined up that way. Alright, and so again, they all read the same from one side of the camera. As I'm reading left to right, all my numbering is the same. Next, we're going to mount 2 472 resistors. So they are going to go here and here. Alright, the 472s. Tin here and we tin here. And they are mounted such that the 4 is at the bottom of the board and the 2 goes towards the top of the board. For my video, most likely the 2 is actually at the bottom of the screen. Alright, both of those tacked in place, come back in and get their back sides mounted, and then I can gently refloat the front just to verify that it's good. Yep, both those mounts are good. Next, we're going to mount another 0.1 microfarad capacitor. That will be the brown capacitor in the paper carrier. That's this carrier again, and it's going right next to what we just mounted. So again, we're going to solder 1 pad. I'll tin 1 pad. Go ahead and keep the heat on it. Tin 1 pad and then tin another pad. We'll solder the other pad anyway. Alright, now I need to check something. See if it does look like bridging across there is common. Let me just double check again. Yeah, that looks to be a common hole shared by the resistor and the capacitor. I just wanted to verify that before we continued. Next, we are mounting the left VN5E 106S driver. We're actually going to mount the 3 straight across. So the 3 drivers go here, here, and here, straight across. They are the only drivers that we have exactly 3 of. Pin 1 is, of course, marked by the square on the board. The unit itself does not have a dimple marking, however. So we determine the unit's orientation using a little character it's got on it. Goodness, what is that? I am not certain what it is. But basically on this little chip, there's a marking on this upper left, and it denotes that it's pin 1. The image on the instructions are honestly how I figured that out. Go ahead and just tin down the pads. Alrighty. So coming across and blocking a bunch of my light. That's on me, I bumped it. Now there is one larger pad on these guys, and they get bridged, so don't be too concerned when you bridge the bottom one here. You notice that they are commonly large pads. Alright, and next we're mounting the middle one. Oh boy, I flipped it. I'm just gonna go to the next boy. I've already got it lined up. Alright, I've got that one tacked. Alright, got all of those tacked in or soldered on. So next we're going to get my other chip aligned, bring it up. Thankfully I'd already tinned all these pads. Alright. Oh goodness, this is not one to... There we go. Nope, that one's not taking solder. Alright, there we go. And the last one. Alright. There's the gang on there. Next, we'll be mounting two 104 resistors. So the 104s, we have a package of 4 resistors marked 104. They go here and here. Mounting 2 of them. The 1 will be at the bottom of the board. The 4 will be at the top of the board. For me, for you guys, that will be reversed on the screen. So the 1 will go on this side, and it will read 1 to 4, going bottom to top for my orientation. Cool. All right. That is our two 104s mounted up. Next, we're going to mount the 3.3 volt voltage regulator. That voltage regulator goes right here, right here. So we'll actually start by tinning the big pad. Also, the voltage regulator is this guy right there. We always want to start by tinning the big pad on the voltage regulator. It's the easiest spot by far to start when mounting one of these. If you get the big pad to take and align, you get just about anything to take and align. So I'm actually going to flip the board over for mounting this. Might actually leave it like this for the rest of the video. Make it a little easier for you guys to follow along. So what I initially did here is I heated up the solder, slid the voltage regulator in, and then heated up the tab for the voltage regulator, and that resulted in it basically just kind of soldering itself in place. This is how I always mount voltage regulators. Here. Solder all those pins on, and our voltage regulator is done just like that. Next, we will be mounting a 102 resistor just above that. So the 102 will be going right here, and then we'll be mounting a 223 right after it. So I'm going to get out my 102 resistor first, followed by the 223. Bear with me while I prep the equipment I need. So our 102, we want these to read left to right as usual. I'm going to go ahead and solder one pad for the 102, get it oriented correctly. As per usual, I don't really know that there's like a proper way to mount these resistors. I just always mount it the exact same way they do in the instructions. And for the most part, that also just is the way that satisfies my OCD the best. So that is the 102 mounted. Do have a little bit of extra solder on there. And then I just tinned the pad for the 223. So we're going to rapidly come in and mount the 223 resistor. I'll remove my heat. Crud, it wasn't set yet. Do that about once or twice per project. Usually I do it earlier on than now, though. Heat that up a bit, get it good and soldered. Alright. There's our 102 and our 223 mounted. Next we'll be mounting a 10 microfarad capacitor. It will be the brown part in a clear carrier. There are 4 of these in a clear carrier. Look about like that. And this guy will be going right here, just to the right of our voltage regulator. So I'm going to start with the back pad here and tin it real quick. Probably should have gone ahead and gotten out the part first before I tinned it, but I didn't. It's kind of fun getting to work with these things coming out of the pick and place packaging, since these are 1206 components. They're designed to work with pick and place machines, so they come in pick and place packaging. Alright, we get that all Soldered on nice and happy. That is our 10 microfarad capacitor mounted.